Right, another video. This time I'm just going to cover my personal 2-year ownership of a W140 S-Class, which isn't here anymore. I mean, you're going to have to pretend that's the big silver S-Class. I've managed to just get this on the road really, so check out the other video for that on an update. But in terms of 2 years of ownership, that ticked over a while ago really, so I thought I'd cover what I've done in that time for keeping that S-Class on the road really. So new tyres all around, that's obviously just maintenance. I had to do the steering box, I had to get that refurbished. That was a good £500. I had to do a new accelerator cable. I had to do the rear calipers, again, kind of expected on a car of that age. Rear springs, which was because it liked to creak over bumps. And once I had the garage replace the rear springs, it actually turned out to be the bottom rose joint on the shock. Now, the shocks on the rear of that car are hydraulic, so you'd probably have to get that rebuilt in some way. I don't know whether you'd end up needing a new shock. They did suggest maybe taking it off and trying to find something that would fit that. I didn't have the chance to do that in the end. I came home one day and it started misfiring as well. So that turned out to be a couple of coil packs which needed replacing. Again, to be expected of that age, but it seemed to be something every month, especially if you're using the car. I mean, I didn't use it massively. I think I did maybe 5,000 miles or so in it. So a couple of coil packs, I think two of them were around £120 maybe, something like that. New belts, again, you might as well do that while you're doing other maintenance. Some other suspension bits as well. So I mentioned the rear springs. They were just quite old. You could tell they'd weakened over time, especially with a big heavy car like that. They will usually need replacing at this age. That was around £200 for the springs, and then I think I spent about £100 on labour, something like that. Other than that, I had to do a ball joint, some anti-roll bar links, one of the top suspension arms, that was about £100 as well, and that was for a Lamferda one. I also had to do the blower motor regulator, and I think that was about £100, if I remember right, something along those lines. Maybe a bit cheaper than that. I got it in the end. I think I got it from Pelican Parts actually, so all the way from the US. I also had to do the fuel pump. That actually started leaking, as in the actual fuel pump leaking, not any of the hoses around it. Although the hoses around it were also quite old. So I had to replace those as well. I think the fuel pump was again around £100. I had to do the brake lines, the metal hard lines. And other than that, it's been mostly service bits. So I did all new fluids, power steering fluid, hydraulic fluid, obviously oil, any filters, which obviously I'd go through all of the fluids you can, including the diff, the gearbox fluid. You might as well get it all done. That way you've got that peace of mind that, in your ownership it's going to be all good. That was my experience of maintaining a W140 over 2 years, and it ended up being something every month really that needed sorting, whether it was a maintenance item or it was something annoying that stopped working. So I think to own one, you have to really, really, really like that car, because I think there will just be constantly some sort of upkeep to do on that, which, you know, it's kind of expected on that age of car. I don't blame it, but it is a little bit more complicated than, say, a 190e or even a 124, where the parts aren't probably as expensive. For example, if you had to replace that rear shock, that rear hydraulic shock, I think it's £1,000. That's not a small expense on a car that old, which, you know, that's, you know, 20 to 15% of the value of the car. So from that perspective, I think if you want to keep one long term, you have to really, really like one, and I suppose stay in love with it. And I think that's what really changed for me. I wasn't that fond of it anymore after it needing something constantly. It started to grate on me a bit, so that's why it's not here today. Instead, I've got this here. I sold it a while ago. It's gone to a new home. Hopefully they'll enjoy it. They seem to be Mercedes enthusiasts as well, and hopefully they'll continue to keep up with the maintenance for it, and I wish them all the best with it. I did try to do as much as possible on it, but I just got to the point where I started to lose patience with it going wrong constantly. Whereas my previous experience with a 190, although I've done stuff constantly on that as well, it's because it's kind of been a rolling project, really. Same as this one. My previous one, I just kept renewing things, just making them perfect, you know, doing little things like getting new mats, new little items in the engine bay just so they're shiny. W140 is gone, and I'm stuck with this, although I have actually, well, I technically replaced the W140 with a clear 182. Yeah, probably not more reliable. Bye.